Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to continue talking about my current project of coding the combat system for a viewer's game. In particular, I'd like to talk about how I have coded the ability to determine whether an attack by enemies hits or not. So here we have a combat that I've set up. We have 7 enemies. I have no companions, and we've rolled for initiative, and I've come just about dead last. And so all these enemies are going to move towards me. This is all stuff we've seen before. But once everyone's had a go, there should be something new. So I get to advance or retreat. It does say or attack, but we haven't coded the ability to attack yet. So now we have a new round, and now something new should happen because the player character and the monsters are within close range. That is within the range that the monsters can attack, and one of them, the one that got the best initiative, should do so, which is enemy 2 in this case. And we can see that, yes, indeed, that does happen. Enemy 2, it says, rolls 2 and a 3, plus their strong score of 1, minus target's sneaky score of 1 for a total of 5. And then it says failure. So we might want to check those numbers. We might want to say, well, let's see, 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 1 is 6, minus 1 is 5 again. Okay, well, it's giving the correct totals. Is it getting the correct scores? Well, these enemies are male, and male giant mosquitoes, I happen to know, have a strong score of 1, so that bit's right. Is the target's sneaky score 1? Well, if we look over here, we can see that my sneaky score is low, and low is indeed 1 in numeric terms. We have poor, low, moderate, and high, and we code them as 0, 1, 2, and 3. So it's adding things up correctly, and it is pulling the correct scores out. Now, the way that attacks work is that a 7 or more is a success or a hit, and a 6 or less is a failure. And so a total of 5 should indeed be a failure. So it's doing what it should be doing, which is good. So let's have a look at the code that allows that to happen. So the new code is all in this enemy strikes passage. We already had in that passage a message that just says who's attacking who. So it said something like enemy 2 attacks player character, or enemy 7 attacks companion 2, or something like that. But what I've added is that it actually does the random numbers to see, and then checks if that attack is successful or not. We actually have, as well as success and failure, we have what a lot of role-playing game systems have, which is usually called a critical hit or a critical miss. So if you get very high, you can sort of do extra stuff, and if you get very low, you can sort of do worse than nothing. As well as missing, you sort of hurt yourself or something. It calls those long successes and long failures. So we've got a couple of new attributes, although we won't be using them in this video. We'll only be using them when we talk about assessing damage. But I'll show you them now, and then we'll get to the code. Actually, we have, one new variable. I think I said new attributes. Sorry, I keep doing that. I keep saying attributes when I mean variables. So apologies in advance if I do that again. We have one new variable, and we have a new addition to an existing variable. So we have the armor array, $ARMOR. During the course of the game, the player character and or their companions might find things that they can use as armor, which helps them reduce damage. I won't be coding the process of them finding that, because that's not part of the combat system. It's part of the general game. But we do need somewhere to store whether they have found any armor, and if so, how much. And we use that's the armor array. We use, as we've done with a couple of other things, 0 is the player character. So slot 0 is the player character's armor. Sorry, it's not. There we go. Slot 0 is the player character's armor, and then if it's a positive number, it's that companion's armor. So slot 2 is companion 2's armor. Slot 1 is companion 1's armor. We also have an addition to NME_ATT. NME_ATT is the details of each type of enemy that exists in the game. Which in this game there are only 3: the male giant mosquitoes, female giant mosquitoes, and pupae giant mosquitoes. So we already have had their name in slot 0, and then we have the 4 attributes in slots 1 to 4, because monsters in this game have the same attributes as player characters. They have strong, smart, sneaky, and sexy ratings, the same as player characters do. But I've added the 6th number, and that number is the add to their damage, or how much is added to their damage over their strong score, because the strong score also contributes to damage. Now, I'm in sort of ongoing communication back and forth with the creator of this game to get sort of details that weren't in the document that they sent me, or ideas they've had for changes as well. And I don't know the damage numbers for these monsters, so I've just arbitrarily put 2 in there because we need something in there to make the code work. And then I'll, of course, they'll probably advise that that's not right, and I'll change the numbers to what they intend. So, as I say, neither of those will be relevant in the code that we're looking at today. They'll be relevant when we talk about damage. So we already have this message, as in we in previous videos we've talked about this. It just tells you who's attacking who. The new code starts from here down. So this system is based on rolling 2 dice and then applying modifiers. And the 2 dice values we put in $Y and $X, each of them equal to random bracket 1, 6 end bracket, which is a very common piece of code because that's how you simulate the roll of a single 6-sided dice or die. Then we have this complicated bit of code. What's happening there is they're getting the strong score, because that adds to their attack roll when it's a close range attack. When it's a long range attack, you'll be using you would use the sneaky score instead. But these monsters, the giant mosquitoes, only attack from close range, so we only ever want their strong score. So what's happening here? There's two bits to this. The first bit, let's look at this. Is this? It is $NME $INI_who 1. Well, what's that? Well, INI_who is who's acting. So if this is equal to 4, then that means enemy 4 is acting, for example. And the NME array, as the name would suggest, is details about the enemies. In particular, slot 1, so slot something 1, is that enemy's type. And then we use that to look up NME_ATT. NME_ATT is the one we looked at before, which has all the details of the different types of monsters in the game. So basically, this bit will find what type of monster we're dealing with, and then we look at NME_ATT, that value that we just found, 1. And that particular slot slot 1 is the strong score. So W is the strong score of the monster that is currently attacking. Then we look at the sneaky score of the target. So if Z is equal to 0, meaning we're attacking the player character, then we look in ATT underscore PER $PER 3. So what does that all mean? Well, $PER is the player character's persona, which is the name that this game uses for essentially character class or character type. And then ATT underscore PER is an array very similar to the enemies array that we just looked at, except for player characters. So it gives the name of each persona, and then it gives the four attributes: that strong, smart, sneaky, and sexy. And the reason we're looking in slot 3 is because that's where the sneaky score is. So if the target is the player character, we look up the player character's sneaky score, which depends on their persona and is stored in ATT underscore PER. If Z is not equal to 0, we're attacking a companion, then we do exactly the same thing, except that instead of PER, we use $com Z1, because that's where the persona, i.e. character class, of a given companion, of companion Z, is stored. So either way, we get their persona, which is either that one for the player character or that one for companions, and we look up ATT underscore PER slot, the persona that we're concerned with, slot 3, because we want the sneaky score. Then we do a bit of maths. We set y2 equal to y plus x plus w minus z2. So that just means the roll of 2 dice, y plus x, plus the monster's strong score, minus the sneaky score of the target. So the sneakier you are, the harder you are to hit in any attack, and in a close range attack, being stronger presumably makes you faster or something, and therefore makes you more likely to hit. And then we just give a message that says essentially what I've just told you. So enemy, whatever enemy, rolls y and x plus their strong score of w minus the target's sneaky score of z2 for a total of y2. And there's a little note here that says that ranged attacks would use the sneaky attribute rather than strong, but mosquitoes only have a close attack. So when we start coding the player character's attacks, we'll have to do something a bit more complicated. I.e. we might want the strong attribute, and sometimes we'll want the strong attribute, and sometimes we'll want the sneaky attribute. So in this game, being sneaky makes you better at, makes you sort of a better sniper, essentially, makes you better at hitting things. And then we have an else if structure based on y2, because y2 is the total. So if it's less than 4, it says long failure, enemy injures themselves. If it's less than 7, or else if less than 7, so in other words, it's not less than 4, but it is less than 7, then that's just a normal failure. If none of those are true, but it's less than 10, then it's a success. And if none of those are true, meaning that it is at least 10, then it's a long success. In other words, 3 or less is a long failure, which is like a critical failure. 4, 5, and 6 are failures. 7, 8, and 9 is a success, and 10 or more is a long success. So what what success and failure mean, we will find out in the next video when we start to when we look at damage. But for now, I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.